get started laying down flat on the front of your body. So if you can do that on the floor and that's cozy for you, just lay down on the front of your body. And if you need a blanket under your pelvis or a blanket under a pillow, something under your head, then you can grab that too. But you're just coming into a flat, prone position, okay? I'm not going to stay there because you can't hear me when I'm there. So, once you do get there, take your legs a little wide and move your ankles around, move your hips around, move your shoulders around. We won't be here a terribly long time, but I do want this to kickstart this kind of more aware breathing. Okay, so once you get there and you feel like you're reasonably comfortable, I know it can be kind of different. We're not all used to being in this pose all the time. So once you get there, just take a couple of slow breaths, just observing. And can you feel how the back of your lungs are recruited? There's more movement in the back of your lungs, more sensation in your back as you breathe here, which can be soothing for the nervous system, which can actually help us breathe more deeply. Perhaps you know this answer already, or perhaps it's worth some exploring, but what part of the body do you breathe in most readily? Are you a chest breather, a belly breather? Where do you tend to get a little stuck when your breaths are shallow? And maybe they're always, not always, but maybe they're frequently a little bit shallow. And that's why we're doing this practice, so that we can come into a space where we can just work a deeper breath. Now you're deliberately breathing in and out, trying to get up to a 5 count in, a 5 count out. And if you can add a pause at the top of the inhale, then please do that as well. 5 count in, pause. 5 count out. As though you're sweeping your body, trying to clear it out and just be perfectly present. And see if you can add a 5 count pause at the top of your inhale. If that feels exhausting, or that feels like it's causing tension, then you will not hold for the full 5. We'll just be here another 30 seconds or so. Please continue to breathe with that pause in between the inhale and exhale. Exploring again, it's interesting that sometimes, even when we're trying to breathe deeply, our breath gets stuck in one spot. So I'm hoping that laying on the front of your body is helping prevent that, but maybe it's not. And if that's the case, can you just stop for a moment, let your body settle, and then start again. Slow, easy breath. Okay, now let's use that breath to help us get out of this posture. Right now we're prone. We're going to put our head on the floor. Put our hands next to our chest. Give our head a little rock. And then tuck our toes under and push straight down to lift ourselves up. Scoot our knees out and stretch into child's pose. And again, you can rock your head a little bit side to side, just kind of massaging that space between your eyebrows. Okay, and so you're still in a pose where the back of your body is kind of exposed. So let's try that nice slow breath again. And if the count is helpful, use it. You can use it at any point during practice. It's a nice point of focus for your brain to just click through the count. But sometimes it's just an extra thing to do, and again, it can cause the breath to get stuck somewhere because you're like, oh, I'm counting, but my count is too slow or too fast. And so you use these tools when you need them. Please pull yourself up to hands and knees and consider for a moment if you tend to have sensitive knees, let's put something under your knees, maybe a blanket, a towel, fold your mat twice, okay? And then we're just gonna start moving backward and forward. Okay, so you can feel this in the wrist, you can feel this in the shoulders, and the hips, and the knees. Backward and forward so much that you're almost in child's pose and then you're almost in a back bend. Okay, and you can keep in that direction, or you can join me in sending the hips back and then swinging them out to the side, making a full circle to the front, to the other side, to the back, to the first side, to the front, to the other side. Let's do one more big dramatic circle. And then once we get to the back, let's switch the direction. Swing the hips over to side 2. Let's do 3, 2, and one more circle, and allow ourselves to find a center point, just grounding down from shoulders to wrists to hands. Grounding down our shins, and then roll over our right toes and stretch our right leg back behind us. Push down through our left leg firmly so we can lift our right leg and just make little kicks. Just lift your right leg straight back behind you, little kicks. You can stay there. Or if it's okay, bend your knee and squeeze your heel to your sit bone. And keep bending your knee and make little kicks. What we're trying to do is access our hamstrings. Now pull your navel back in space so that you can keep kicking without your pelvis tipping with you. Okay, hold your leg as high as you can possibly go in this instant, and then stretch your leg out behind you, lower your knee to the floor, and take a deep breath in, and all the way out. Step your left leg back behind you, toes tucked under. Drill down through your right leg so that you can stabilize as you lift your left leg up. And you can make those little kicks, just warming up the back of the leg, trying to get to a point where you're using your hamstrings and your glutes, but you're not using your back muscles. So pull your navel back and activate the core a little more. Bend your knee if that's okay, and you can keep doing a few more little kicks here, just kind of warming up. And then we'll find the height that's available on this side. Hold, hold, hold. And then stretch that leg out and lower that knee down. Please take your feet wide and your knees wide. Have your toes tucked under and start walking your hands back and back and back, okay? I kind of would love, if you have some blocks, that you take your blocks with you, okay? If you don't, 100% okay, just have your fingertips on the floor. Our toes tucked under, we're gonna roll over our toes until our legs lift and walk our blocks or hands back with us. Inhale, lift up halfway and lengthen your spine. And then as you exhale, slide your hips back, way back until your knees bend and hold there in a squat. Okay? And then stretch one arm forward and the other arm forward, and your torso can come up a little higher. Take your hands to the sides of your ribs and take a big breath in. Make more space. Keep the space as you exhale. One more breath in. And exhale. Keep that breath swirling around. Reach your arms forward. Maybe you sit down a little lower. And then push yourself all the way up to standing. Inhale, sweep your arms way up in the air. Bring your hands behind the back of your skull and drill down from your pelvis through your feet. Drill down so that you can lift into your upper back, into your mid and upper back, and curl. Lay your head into your hands and then strengthen your abdomen and roll yourself out of the back bend. Inhale, lift up and over, and then exhale, roll yourself out of the back bend. Inhale, lift up and over, a standing back bend, and then exhale, almost like a crunch, coming back up to center. Stay here, stand nice and tall, and then tip over to the right. Inhale, center, and exhale, tip over to the left. Inhale, center. And then just kind of playing with it. We're just kind of deliberately moving our bodies around, introducing these different openings. And we'll go deeper later. We'll pause a little more later. Now, when you tip over to the right, look up to the ceiling. And then inhale, center, and exhale, tip over to the left, and try looking up to the ceiling. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, bring your arms forward in space. Take your right arm in. It's like your right arm is pulling your chest open to the right. Your elbow reaches back, and reach your arm back. Even look back over that hand. Reach long through both arms. Inhale. Exhale, and then bring that arm with you as it comes all the way forward. Take an inhale, get tall, and an exhale, pulling your chest over to the left, reaching that elbow wide, reaching that arm wide, reaching both arms wide. Full breath. And then on your next inhale, roll your arm back forward. And one more challenge for the arms. I imagine they're getting a little tired at this point. Inhale, reach your arms up. And then as you exhale, you're going to again reach them forward as you squat yourself back and down. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now lower your hands down to your blocks or your shins and just move your legs a little side to side. If you've got the blocks, we're going to stack them flat and wide and sit them a little behind our heels so that we can sit our hips back and down into a squat where we're just sitting on something. If you don't have the blocks, then you can come halfway up. I won't keep us here for too long just in case we don't all have the blocks. So we're opening up our arms if we're sitting on something. You could use a stool or a chair too. Bring our index and thumb together and just deeply breathe here. Try to drill your sit bones down, either physically into the blocks or kind of down in the direction of the floor. Engage your outer thighs a little bit if you're not using the blocks. And lift your shoulders up to your ears, getting that space in your sides. Roll your shoulders back away from your head in order to broaden the chest. And then press your shoulder blades onto your back in order to get some power in your chest opening. Now let's switch over. Okay, we're going to do that again in 1 second. Let's come forward, put our hands on the ground. Let's step our shin onto the floor. So now we're just coming back to hands and knees. Shin on the floor, shin on the floor. And then if you've got those blocks, just sit back on the blocks. If you do not, you can sit on your heels or put a pillow underneath you. Okay? Or just sit with your legs crossed. So let's do the shoulder thing again. Inhale, lift up through the sides. Press back to broaden the chest. And then engage your upper back here. Now take your arms and make them really long and straight and press them straight back. Okay? Now release your arms, turn your palms toward the front of your mat and press your arms straight back, and notice how maybe there's just a tiny bit more room across the upper chest. Hold here for a moment. Release the arms again. And let's do it one more time. We're turning our palms from our upper arms to face forward and then reaching our arms back. Can you keep your arms in that shape but just turn your palms toward one another? Can you recruit your lower traps right here at the kind of upper mid-back area? And then interlace your fingers behind your back so you have even more power in your upper back so that you can clasp your hands or a strap or a piece of clothing, or just don't do it at all, just have your hands separate. One more big breath in. Got those shoulders really well aligned. Now pull your chin back a little bit. Yeah. And then maybe start to tip your chest up, coming into a slight upper back bend, and then your head rolls to look at the ceiling. Okay, your head is the last thing to come up, and if it's strenuous on your neck, you don't add it. Okay, let's come all the way out of that scenario. Just release our arms and take a breather. Try to get that breath into your upper back. When you're ready, please move your blocks out to the sides, and we'll take a downward facing dog. Walk ourselves forward. Tuck our toes under. Hover our knees off the floor for just a moment. Inhale, nice long spine. And then exhale, push ourselves back into this supported, it's not supported, into this downward facing dog, supported by our strength. Push down from your shoulder blades through your hands, push down from your hips to your heels. Even if your heels aren't touching, that's no problem. Breathe into it. Can you apply a little bit of that back body breathing here, as though you were still laying on the front of your body? Now let's try in plank pose if we can do the same. Can we shift forward into plank pose, which is a more similar shape to us being flat on the ground, and breathe into our back. Maybe we even deliberately puff up our back. Push back into downward facing dog, please. Keeping a bit of fullness in your back. Let's do it again. Inhale, come forward. Exhale, push down to almost round your upper back, separating your shoulder blades slightly. And then push back into downward facing dog, keeping some fullness in the upper back. Okay? And one more time, inhale, shift forward. Exhale here. And then push back into down dog when you're ready. And what I'm talking about, because that's a natural shape for a lot of bodies, but I guess I'm talking more about if your shoulders are really loose and your chest can just sink down, then you tend to lose some of the fullness in your upper back when you come into down dog. So we're just considering, where we're at, trying to keep chest and upper back nice and open. Walk your hands back to your feet, please. On an inhale, swing your arms forward, strengthen your legs to sit back. On an inhale, sweep all the way up. Hands behind the head, exhale. Ground down. Inhale, take a little upper back bend. And then we're diving down again. Exhale. Dive ourselves all the way forward. Uttanasana. Inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen. Exhale, take a wander into downward facing dog. We are going to do a low lunge, so if you need a blanket along the way, grab it. Inhale here, and exhale, step your right foot forward on the outside of your right hand. Just going to give ourselves extra space today. Put the back knee on the floor a little behind your hips and shift forward and back a few times. And then shift your pelvis side to side a few times. You're just trying to accommodate the thigh bones, the tight hips, and just kind of get into a position that feels neutral for you. Push straight down through this front foot, knee on top of ankle, and walk your hands a little bit forward if that feels good. Squeeze front heel and back knee toward each other and just power up your pose a little bit more. Take an inhale here, and then see if you can, if your knee agrees to it, see if you can bend your back leg like we did earlier. Squeeze the heel in toward the sit bone and hold for 5. Try to push your sit bone back and pull your heel forward. 3, squeeze more. 2, squeeze more. 1, lower that foot down. Okay, walk our hands back a little. Put our right hand on our thigh and inhale, lengthen through the sides. Exhale, turn a little. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist a little to the right. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist a little to the right. And maybe that right arm rolls up in the air. And you're kind of similar to how you were standing earlier when you did that standing twist. Your arms are really wide, so reach through both arms, not just that right one. Let's take one more inhale here. And then take that right arm and just roll it back down to the floor. Step back into hands and knees. Inhale, arch your back for a cow pose. Exhale, round your back for a cat pose. One more. Inhale. And then exhale. Inhale, come into neutral. Exhale, hover your knees. Inhale here. Exhale, slide back, downward dog. Inhale here. Exhale, left foot forward on the outside of your left hand. Lower your back knee a little behind your hip and just start moving forward and back. Pelvis a little side to side. Getting everything in the right place. That thigh bone hip socket relationship is trying to work its way out. And then come back to center. Push down from your front knee to your front heel. Squeeze your front heel and your back knee toward each other, okay? And then maybe you walk your hands a little bit forward. Try to push down right above your kneecap on that right leg. Push down there and then push your right heel to your right sit bone. And push your sit bone back to your heel and your heel to your sit bone to heel, and just keep going. Both of them. Holding for 3 more. 2 more. You can breathe much slower than I'm counting. 1 more. And then we're lowering that leg down to the floor. Inhale. Get a little longer, hands under shoulders. Exhale, slight twist to the left, hand on your leg. Inhale, lengthen through your sides, right shoulder blade back. Exhale, twist a little bit. Please ease your way into this twist. 1 more breath to get into it. And then once you're into it, that top arm just rolls up and you find the width across your chest, across your arms, across your upper back. Can you recruit a little bit of the breath into your back here? And when you do that, does that make the pose fuller, more easeful? Exhale, roll your arm all the way back down to the floor. Plant your hand. Step your leg back, hands and knees. Let's inhale, round into cat pose. Really tuck your tail as much as you possibly can. And then inhale into cow pose and resist through your belly. Navel back a little bit. Try to work your upper back. And then round, tuck your tail, tuck your tail, tuck your tail. And then arch, resisting the lower belly. And then neutral, knees up. And then push back into downward facing dog. From downward dog, inhale. And then as we exhale, we're walking our hands back toward our feet. You might take your feet a little wider than your hips, just being nice to the hamstrings. Inhale, lift up halfway. You can use shins or blocks or floor. Exhale, fold back in. Inhale, sweep your arms up. And then as you exhale, push your hands, palms down, push your hands down, shoulder blades on the back, and push your hands back behind you. And then rotate your palms to face each other, widen out through the kind of the inner, the biceps are trying to turn forward. Inhale here, and exhale, slide the hips back as you fold halfway down. And then inhale, push to stand, use your thighs. Exhale, slide hips back to fold halfway down, and we've got one more. Inhale, up, and exhale, sliding down, maybe folding more. Inhale, lift up halfway, hands on your shins. Exhale, walk your hands down to the floor and all the way forward, all the way forward. We're actually going to come down onto our bellies again. So you can take a chaturanga if that's a familiar thing, or you can just roll until you get there. Okay? And then inhale, tops of the feet down, chest pulls a little forward and a little up so we can put our forearms down on the ground. Sphinx pose. Okay? And from Sphinx, start with your upper back, round, and then arch. And then find a center point. You might have to do some more rounding and arching before you find it. And then with your pelvis, seems impossible, but you're gonna tuck your tail, and then you're gonna lift your tail. And then you find that there's actually a space in between where you kind of send your tailbone straight back. And what happens if you kind of try to press the sit bones downward, like toward the floor, and just like push your pelvis a little bit into the floor? If that's okay, you can use a blanket. You can always, always, always do these things very, very, very slightly. Okay, be gentle with your body. Now I just want to show you one more thing here. Come down, take your thumb right here at the top of the thigh, and what I'd like you to try to do is to scrub the flesh, the fascia, the muscle over to the sides, okay? So you're rolling the flesh out to the, widening it so that your thighs are turning internally. The front of your thighs are turning more toward the floor, and you're broadening your lower back. Now try to keep that. You can't keep the hands there as you do that, so do that muscularly. Push your tailbone toward the heels, push your sit bones toward the floor, and then all of a sudden you're just kind of like so stable in your lower body that it's not that difficult to lift up. Now let's keep all of those wondrous things. Take our elbows out from under us and take our arms out to the sides, okay? Keep our elbows as they are, but lift our hands a little higher. Keep our elbows the height that they are, but lower our hands a little bit lower toward the floor. Inhale, hands toward the sky. Exhale, hands toward the floor. Inhale, hands toward the sky. Exhale, hands toward the floor. Please stack your hands and rest your head on your hands. Take a break for a moment. Always welcome to wobble out the hips when you're doing prone back bends. It usually feels nice. Okay, now with your head down, let's try one more thing. Gonna widen, you can do this manually or not. Widen the top of the thigh. Press your legs up so they lift off the ground. Send your tailbone towards your heels, send your sit bones toward the floor, and you're just laying down your head. And you can just paddle them out. Just kick your legs, paddle them out. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold as high as you can, and then lower your legs all the way down. Walk your hands back underneath your chest. When you're ready, tuck your toes and try to push straight up into hands and knees, and then push back into downward facing dog. Inhale here and exhale completely. Inhale, shift your way forward to hands and knees. Swing both feet over to the right and sit your left hip on the floor. So sit your hips to the left of your feet. So you just have a cute like little mermaid thing happening here. Inhale, lift up long through the sides of your body and then twist away from your thighs. Twist away from your thighs. Try to keep both sides long, which means your right hip is rolling down. It's not touching the floor, that's fine, but it's rolling down. And then add one last piece. Try to lift through your collarbones. Lift and widen. And inhale, slowly come back to center, and almost like a dance, we're swinging our legs over to the other side. Lift up nice and tall, and exhale, twist over to the right, away from our legs. Our feet are to the left, our twist is to the right. Lengthen that left hip down toward the feet. You can also do this with your legs crossed if that feels more reasonable. And then move your collarbones up and wider. And then inhale, come all the way back to center. Step your feet out in front of you. Push down very firmly through your heels. Try to get your whole feet on the floor. So if you have to do legs wider or knees more or less bent, please do that. And we're going to roll our shoulder blades onto our back. Turn our upper arms externally, so our biceps forward. But then try to turn our palms down. Okay? And then put our hands down on the floor behind us, and it's kind of like we're sunbathing here. You're looking straight forward. You're trying to keep that lift and width in your collarbones. Biceps attempting to turn forward, and maybe you want to turn your fingers out a little bit toward the sides of the mat. But please turn them either forward or sideways, or kind of in that range as opposed to behind you. Okay, so we're here, we're pressing each fingertip into the floor, and we're inhaling to open that chest a little bit more. Now as we exhale, can we engage our lower abdomen? Can we just kind of pull our navel back toward the spine and up toward the head? And just look at your navel for a moment. Engage your inner thighs. And then push your feet and hands down and hover your hips. And then lower your hips back down again. And now you have an idea of where we're going. Inhale, push your feet and hands down and lift your hips, but this time, pull your heels back in space and maybe your hips lift a little higher and then lower back down. I would recommend looking at your navel this whole time. I'm gonna give you an instruction to move it. But looking down at the navel, we're lifting, 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 pulling heels back, lifting, pulling heels back, lifting, pulling heels back, pressing, widening our chest. And then at this last moment, maybe you look up at the ceiling. Okay, nice long neck though. This can be a challenging neck pose, trying to hold your head in midair like this. So maybe it just serves you better to look forward. Pull heels back, lift hips a tiny bit higher, inhale. And then as you exhale, slow motion, put your hips on the floor, but keep your chest up. And then let's just hover those arms out in front of us, which is nice for the arms. It is a little bit of a boat pose, but our feet are down. And can you breathe into the back of your body? Okay, please make your way out of this scenario, back to hands and knees. Knees wide, toes tucked under, walking ourselves back. Maybe you're using your blocks to assist you. And we're rolling over our toes so we can put our feet on the ground again. Inhale, lifting up, halfway lengthen. Exhale, just put our hands on our hips. And then inhale, stand all the way up, lifting from your collarbones. Step your legs a little closer together. Use a wall if you need to. Stand on your left leg and bend your right leg. Squeeze your right heel into your sit bone. You can stay right there. You can try to keep your pelvis neutral as you point the knee down. You've seen this shape a lot at this point. So navel back, tailbone rooting down. And even here, your thighs are widening in the back so that you just have this width and this support in your pelvis. Maybe you grab onto the foot. Maybe not. Maybe you put your foot down and you pause for a second. Okay, maybe you grab onto your foot, push your pelvis down and curl into your upper back just a little bit more. Inhale, and then we're gonna slowly release the foot all the way down to the floor. Exhale. Feel free to shake it out. Feel free to just stand here in a nice proud mountain pose. Shift onto your right foot, bend your left leg, and kick your sit bone with your heel. Okay? And you can do that with your knee pointing down if possible without losing the structure of the pose. Further, if possible, if your foot's somewhere within reach, and really grab it, see what that's like. And it's not that you forget all of that hamstring strength, it's just that your hamstrings don't have to work as hard here because your hand is holding your foot. Okay. Now we're standing up nice and tall. We're pushing with our right hand, hips down, maybe curling up. Again, you can look kind of down at your chest or straight forward. Inhale, and then exhale, release that foot all the way down to the floor and just a nice big mountain pose, unless you need to shake some stuff out. Let's circle our arms very dramatically up to the sky. Inhale. And then as we exhale, diving ourselves down, very slow dive all the way down. Elbows bend, head releases. Feel free to release some extra tension in the neck. And then inhale, lift up halfway, lengthen. If you're keen on trying a down dog with blocks, let's get into that. Walking our hands forward, pushing the blocks down, lifting nice and long through this big pose here. Okay, keeping our upper arm bones lifted, our chest is nice and wide without pinching anywhere. Okay, and then we're gonna make our way forward, inhale into a plank pose. Put our knees down on the floor for a second. Okay, inhale, curl your chest. Got to keep your sides of your body really long though. Curl your chest through your arms and imagine your arms are going to slide back. So engage your triceps. Try to turn your biceps forward so you have this big widening that we've been working on. And some of you might tuck the toes and lift your knees up. Tailbone toward the heels. Okay, wide through the upper back thighs. One more inhale, upward facing dog. And then exhale, pushing back, careful with it, downward facing dog. Stay here for 2 deep breaths. Feel free to let out a big old sigh as needed. Interesting to find out if you're more inclined to sigh in the comfort of your own home than in a public class. That is one of the things I've been thinking about as we're doing these online classes. Sometimes people just feel more freedom to be themselves and do all the sounds and all the things they wanted to do. Inhale, come forward. We're gonna come to our bellies. So go ahead and either take your chaturanga or roll yourself all the way down to the floor, laying flat. Here we are. Put your head on your hands for a moment, please, and just rest there. Take a deep breath in and out. Now let's set it up just a little bit, and then I'll walk you through the back bend. We can take our upper thighs and widen them, okay? So our thigh bones turn in, push our toes down, push our tailbone toward the heels, push our sit bones toward the floor. Lengthen the space in our lower abdomen, so navel in toward the spine, up toward the head, okay? So you're there, so super strong in your lower legs. And then you might see if you can keep all that and bend your knees. Okay, redo it. Widen the back of the upper thighs, tailbone toward the knees, sit bones toward the floor, navel in and up. I chuckle because it's a lot of things to think about, but you got it. You've been doing it this whole time. Okay, so your pelvis is sitting on the floor to the best of your ability. Okay, and then we're going to take our arms into their external rotation. So we'll take them out to the sides, and then we'll turn our palms forward for the moment, okay? And reach our hands back, keep our upper arm bones in that shape, but turn our palms toward our legs. And maybe we grab hold of those feet and push our legs and our hands into each other and stretch out so long through the sides of our body, lifting and widening our collarbones. Maybe for a second, look down towards your chest and then curl up through the back of your skull. And then when you're ready, you just release your whole pose and you rest your head down and you take a moment. Again, you can wobble your hips. That's called Dhanurasana bow pose. So that was one option. You can stay there. Or, for the sake of time, I'm going to move us on to that pose, standing on your knees, which is called Camel Ustrasana. Okay, so you can either do the one you just did, or if you're done, you could just lay down for a minute. Or here we go, you can join me. Push your hands down, push straight down so you can lift up, and then we're walking. Let's do a down dog for 1 second, you guys. Press up and back. Just take a couple of deep breaths there. Try to keep the down dog pretty neutral. We are technically folded. We are technically in a forward bend, but I would prefer that you don't go past 90 degrees here. We're not trying to undo all the back bend work yet. Okay, so if you need a little support under the knees, let's throw a blanket out there. We're gonna slow motion put our knees down on the floor, so slow, so slow, so slow, so our belly has to help us. Keep our toes tucked under, push our feet down, and then try rolling ourselves up if your spine allows, rolling ourselves up, and then we're just standing on our knees now. Let's get those shoulders into their proper position, palms forward, arms externally rotated. And then let's get that pelvis into its proper position, so widening through those upper back thighs. Tailbone down, sit bones a little forward, lengthening through our lower belly. And let's do a little, you can put your hands on your thighs, your hips, wherever you want. Inhale, do a little upper back bend, and then strengthen your middle and roll up. Do it 2 more times and ensure that you are not pulling up with your head. You're curling back and then you're rolling up. It's a little scary, like your head doesn't want to be the last thing up, but you're trying to do it anyway. Rolling up, okay? So then the alternative is, let's set up this whole thing one more time. The alternative is you look down a little and you start to make your way into the pose, which is walking your hands maybe to your thighs. Maybe your hands stay on your lower back and you push down, especially if you feel tension in your lower back. Maybe some of you might walk the hands down to the calves or to the heels, right? But you're still kind of looking forward and trying to find the chest lifting and widening, the pelvis, doing all the things we talked about. And then at the last moment, maybe you send your head back as the bottom tips of your shoulder blades roll into your back a little bit more. Okay, and then we're rolling up, you guys. You could stay here as long as you want. But then we're rolling up. The belly rolls up, the ribs, the chest, the head. And you, whenever you do that, come out of your pose and just sit down for a sec. Just close your eyes, rest your hands, rest your mind. Feel the stimulation that you've created in your body. Where are you feeling these little sparks or these little movements or heat? Okay. I'm gonna move us along, but feel free to keep playing with that pose. You could do it again once or twice. These poses make more sense in our mind and body, our mind-body connection, when we do them more frequently, because everything just kind of comes together a little more each time. So feel free to take the pose another couple times. Meet up with us when you're done. Okay, so please, if you're moving along with me, please make your way onto your back. Laying down on your back, having your knees bent, your feet planted, your arms as you like, and then just resting here. It's called constructive rest pose. Okay, so you might even have your feet a little wide and your knees a little narrow, which is going to just broaden your lower back. If there was anything that came up in that whole class, just giving it a break. Okay, and then we'll hug our left knee into our chest and stretch our right leg down to the floor. And you can relax your right leg for the moment and just kind of move around. That left leg, massaging out that left lower back hip area. Okay, and then we'll bend our bottom leg, but straighten the leg that we're holding on to. Push it up into the ceiling. And if it doesn't straighten all the way, no problem. If you have some clothes or something nearby and you want to put around your foot, excellent. If you can't reach your leg, no problem. There are plenty of options, so just find one. Breathe into it for a few more breaths in this part of the shape. Feel free to lower your bottom leg too. Okay, and then we're taking this left leg over to the right a little bit. Hip stays down, but the leg moves over. So we get this longer IT band. Inhale, come back up to center. See if you can keep your leg straight and lower it down. And then relax the legs. Hug your right knee in when you're ready and just let your leg move around. Massaging the right lower back of hip. Okay, and then bend that bottom leg and straighten the leg that's in your hands. Take the same version of the pose you did on the last side. Assuming you're not working with an injury. If you are, then sides are going to be notably different. Feel free to straighten that bottom leg. Just another couple of breaths in this part of the shape. Supta Padangustasana. And then we're keeping the hips, the pelvis on the floor, but taking the leg a little bit across the body. Sometimes you have to work that hip down a little bit, so your right hip might have to deliberately push down. And then on an inhale, come back up to center And on an exhale, with a straight leg, try to lower that whole leg down to the floor. Okay, now bend both knees. Press your hands into your thigh bones. Press your thigh bones away from your head. Press your thigh bones specifically down toward your heels. And imagine you could keep that length in your hip flexor area and pull your legs in. So it might be a tiny bit achievable by pressing your hands and thighs into each other, no matter how deeply you squeeze your legs in. It's kind of nice. And then let's take our legs out wide, and we can do this, or we can grab the ankles or grab the feet and hold this upside down squat, also known as happy baby, also known as dead bug. Okay, let's bring those legs around, give them a good squeeze. Roll to our side. Okay, I should qualify this. You don't have to roll to your side. You can just lay flat on the back of your body. I'm going to give you a setup for Shavasana where you have your legs supported. But if you just want to lay on your back, excellent. Go for it. Okay, if you're doing the setup, you need either a chair, a couch, a wall, or you can take a couple of books, blocks, whatever, sit them out at the width of your hips. Fold up a blanket, pillow, multiple pillows, whatever squishy thing, sit it on top. Actually, I think the blocks have to be a little narrower than the hips unless your thing that you're sitting on top is really firm. So our calves sit on there, right? So our legs are a little bit uplifted. You could use an ottoman. Anyway, this is a nice option if you're up for it. It gives the thigh bones a chance to sit back like we were doing with our palms earlier. And it gives our pelvis a chance to just be really heavy on the ground and neutral. Right? So we're not arched, we're not rounded, we're just like putting weight on it so that it's neutral. You could also just put a pillow or some kind of weight on your actual belly and pelvis. So once you're there, you squiggle your way into it. Make sure you're not holding this excellent, beautiful mounted pose posture. Let it go. Let your legs turn a little and relax. Let your shoulders shift around and relax. Your head move around. I like to lengthen the back of my neck to turn the gaze inward. If you're comfortable closing your eyes, please close them. Rest your eyeballs in the sockets, down and back. If you're not comfortable closing your eyes, observe the colors, the shapes around you. Release. Take a deep breath in and release it completely. Move your body around through the hands, through the feet. Stretch the arms, stretch the legs. Gently press your low back into the floor and bend one knee and then the other knee, and just shift a little until you feel ready to roll to one side and rest there. And then lift yourself up into a seat. And be deliberate with how you place your body. That nice proud seat, pushing our hips down, sitting up nice and tall through the sides, shoulder blades gently on the back. Please turn your palms up, join your palms together, and take a bow with your head. A bow into whatever you are grateful for in this moment. Thank you for joining me in class. Namaste.